Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Uncaged podcast. And today I have a real treat for you. I am delighted to be bringing you this conversation with Andrea Balboni, who is the founder of Lush Coaching. She works with high-performing entrepreneurial women to help them find long-term relationships and nourishing and pleasure-filled sex lives, which who doesn't want that, quite frankly? And Andrea and I connected on Instagram. I've been following her for a little while, and I just took a punt and asked her if she would agree to be on my podcast. And she said yes. So I was so delighted. And just we have so many areas of connection, so many similarities in our stories. And I really feel like this is going to be a valuable episode for you, in particular, if you are someone who has been in the dating game for a long time, maybe single for a long time. I was single for a decade, and just at the moment in a 2 month kind of 2 months into a relationship. So yeah, single for a really long time, and it can really feel like there's something wrong with you, like, oh my goodness, I'm a hopeless case. And Andrea was also in the same situation, and she went on her own journey to figure out, okay, how do I change this? And that's what she shares in this episode. And along with my own experiences, it's a real conversation around how to navigate like long-term singlehood, getting back into dating, what it looks like, and how to be in a healthy, secure relationship. We get into the realms of tantra a little bit, and the importance of being in your body, and just it's just a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And Andrea shares so much wisdom, um, and I really hope and I really believe that you're going to take so much value from this, whether you're in a relationship or not at the moment. There are going to be some real golden nuggets that are going to either help you to date in a more fun and productive way, shall we say, and also, to build a healthier relationship when you're in one. So really, really hope that you enjoy this conversation. And please do let us know your comments, your feedback. We'd really love to know how this episode landed for you. And if you've got any questions, anything more that we could expand on and answer for you. So, yeah, really, really looking forward to you diving into this episode. So I'm just going to shut up now so you can. And yeah, do enjoy and do let us know your feedback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Uncaged podcast. And I am delighted today to have with me the wonderful Andrea Balboni, who is a sex, love, and relationships coach working predominantly with high-performing entrepreneurial women to help them find long-term relationships and also nourishing, pleasure-filled sex lives. So I am so excited to have this conversation, and thank you so much, Andrea, for agreeing to be on the podcast.
My pleasure. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And I can't wait to dive in.
Yeah, it's going to be a really great conversation. I know we've already chatted and found that we have a lot of common ground, which I love. So obviously, you know you way better than I know you. So I've given that really brief introduction, but it'd be really good, I think, to get to understand how you've come to be doing what you're doing now. What your journey has been. So yeah, if you want to kick off with a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am now a sex, love, and relationships coach. I had about a 20-year career in corporate creative. So I was in technology, I was a tech person, but on the creative side. So that was fun for a long time. I was leading teams, worked internationally. It was really, really great. And during that time, my career was kind of going from win to win. And, it's challenging, and there were always challenges and growth opportunities for sure. It wasn't necessarily that it was easy, but it worked. I
Yeah.
knew what to do. I could move
Hmm.
up. I knew how to expand in it. And alongside that, there was my dating life, which was pretty much disaster prone, like an area of minefield. That's how it felt. It was really hard. It felt heavy. It was sad. It was lonely. I just really, really struggled with relationships in general, intimate ones. So intimate relationships. I had kind of like a high school love when I was 16 for a few months, and then was single throughout all of my university. I went to an all women's college, and as a heterosexual,
Hmm.
cisgendered woman,
Yeah.
it wasn't great. It was also in the countryside, so it wasn't fantastic for bringing me into the orbit of people that I would meet. And then moved to New York City, which helped. So I had a boyfriend for a few years there. It was fantastic, but just not right for the longer term. And then never did I expect a decade and a half to follow about of just single for all of it. And so, yeah, it was really befuddling. I couldn't work it out. I couldn't
Yeah.
figure it out. I did everything that I could to try and work it out, and just kept coming up against blocks and just didn't know what was happening. So I vowed that if I ever did work it out, that if I figured it out, that if I found a way that felt right for me, because there were a lot of kind of these self-help books about and
Yeah.
dating advice kind of things, but none of it felt really right for me. That if I did find a way through it, that I would help others. And so I found a way through it. Went really deep for quite a few years, and came out the other side. I explored lots of different. We can talk about this a bit later on.
Yeah.
Explored lots of different ways through, and popped out the other side with a wonderful partner and beautiful, beautiful relationship that continues to grow and evolve, and the kind of relationship that I would describe as exceptional and a growth relationship. And that's the kind of relationship that women who come to me, and men as well, so I work with men too, want. And so I can now help them to get there. So I made a career change,
Yeah.
pivoted, big pivot, retrained, and now I'm a coach. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah. No,
It's
it's
a journey.
yeah, but it's fascinating, and I'm sure that a lot of people will be able to relate to that, and I know that I certainly can as well. You know, like I was, yeah, single all through university. I wasn't at an all girls university. Um, you know, I didn't have my first boyfriend until I was 23.
Mhm.
I had a very religious upbringing, which definitely contributed to that. And if a bit like you, it just felt like my career. I was like, I know what to do here. I know the boxes to tick. I know that if I work hard and I have confidence enough in my own abilities and my own intelligence, that if I just do the things, I'm going to get to where I want to go with my career. And I know that it was that belief that was what made my career. Like you say, it was hard. I worked bloody hard, but it advanced really quite nicely, you
Mhm.
know. And yet at the same, on the other hand, like the intimate relationship side was like, people would look at me like with confusion, like, but you know, you have so much to offer. Like,
You're like, I
why are you always single? Like, I don't know.
know, if I
You
knew, I
know,
wouldn't be, would I?
exactly. And then, you know, as the years progress, you know, so my full decade of singledom was like my 30s, really. Um, and yeah, you start to think like, oh, how is this ever going to happen for me? So I think it's great for both of us, I think, to be able to share like, yeah, that's it's not that unusual, because I do think there's perhaps a little bit of a stigma around like the longer you're single, like, oh god, another year's ticked by, what's wrong with me, am I ever going to find anybody? So yeah, I hope that people listening can recognize that actually it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you at all.
No.
And that you can find, like you did, you can find a way through. So I know you mentioned that you went down a lot of different avenues. So it'd be really interesting to hear actually what those avenues were that you decided to explore and why you decided to explore them.
hmm So, like you, I had an upbringing that was pretty conservative. There was an element of religion there as well.
Hmm.
Catholic growing up. So there that brought with it a lot of shame, a lot of
Yeah.
A lot of stigma also against sexual relationships
Mm-hmm.
or intimate relationships, even. It kind of bled into them. And a lot of fear as well. And
Yeah.
so I wouldn't have necessarily thought that that was some of the stuff that was kind of keeping me, because I thought that I had moved beyond that and
Mm-hmm.
that I had kind of worked enough around that stuff. And then, but still things weren't happening for me. And so when I walked into a yoga studio and it turned out they were also teaching Tantra, that was the moment where things really started to shift. So in the Tantra class, I had never heard of Tantra. I didn't know what it was. It's Neo Tantra. So there's some classical teachings, and then there's a lot of kind of this Neo Tantra, which is more spirituality, mindfulness. It's a
Mm-hmm.
mashup. A lot of it's a
Okay.
mashup.
Yeah.
But what was the key component of it for me at that point was this concept that sex is sacred, and that as a woman you hold this beautiful, mysterious, magical energy within you that is sacred, that's sexual, that's erotic, and that wants expression, and that it's healthy to express, that it's healthy to
Mm-hmm.
embrace that wholeness comes from embracing all parts of you, including this one, which just happens to be, according to that those teachings, the most sacred part of us. So that initially, the concept of it really felt good, and then bringing it into my body, and being able to feel what it was like when I really embraced that and how to express that in my everyday kind of living in my life and in dating and relationships was really what made a fundamental shift for me, alongside mindset shifts around relationship, what healthy relationship is, the dynamic, in my case, because I'm attracted to men, the dynamic of men and women and how we relate, what my chosen, uh, it's not a role, what my chosen, I don't know how many people will resonate with this, but what my energetic signature is in that relating to a man. How can I be a woman and feel powerful? How
Mm-hmm.
can I be feel feminine and have
Yeah.
that feel right for me and feel powerful? And what does that look like with a man who's also in his power and relates to a powerful woman in that way, and in his way? And what's healthy there? What feels in balance there? What feels right there? What feels good there? So it took quite a lot of quite a lot of discovery for myself, what I wanted to, what felt good for me and what felt right for me. So
Yeah.
that's certainly another aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I think there's a few things in there. Like, first of all, like starting with what you just finished with, I love the idea of an energetic signature
Hmm.
rather than a role. Because again, I grew up with a very traditional, husband, wife, husband goes out to work, wife stays at home and, looks after the kids and does the washing. And I was like, hell no, like, hell no, that is not going to be my life. I knew from a very young age that was not what I wanted at all, but I didn't have a model of what else there was. And also then this idea of looking for a model, I really like that idea of what's my energetic signature within a relationship. And I've also been through, I've dated guys who felt emasculated by me
Hmm.
because I was very determined and knew exactly what I wanted and knew where I was going. And it was like, if you're going to get in my way, then I'm going to walk over you, which probably isn't, looking back, I've grown up a little bit since then. But so I know, I'm very attracted to men and also to the very masculine. But then sometimes I think with all of the self help and personal development, there's all this stuff about being in your feminine. And I've certainly found, like, in the relationship I'm currently in, initially I was like, I need to make sure I'm still in my feminine. I need to be in my feminine, because if I'm not in my feminine, then the masculine man is not going to be attracted to me. And I even checked at one point. I was like, have I emasculated you yet? And the guy I was with was like, very unlikely to happen. Okay. And and I've a bit like you, I've done various coachings, over the past decade where I've learned what it means to be more in my feminine, but also being receptive rather than passive. So kind of busting that myth that to be in your feminine, you have to just like, um, be completely passive,
Mhm.
which is not true. And I think that's where some women kind of struggle, maybe perhaps with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your fear of steamrollering was
Mm,
also the fear that you have of being steamrollered. So
mm,
that so the what you were describing is that energy of focus, of purpose, of
yeah.
moving forward, of direction, of clarity, of like, where that's a super healthy form of masculine, and that's masculine energy. So that's where a man can feel emasculated if you come
Yeah.
to the relationship with only that,
Mm,
and no space for the receiving side
yeah.
of it. And where it does go into kind of like the toxic or the unhealthy masculine is the steamrollering, is the competitive, like, I'll get this no matter what, everyone else will pay, and I will, pay the price, I don't care, heads roll, whatever, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
That's where it goes into kind of that imbalance. And so within each of us, as you know well, there is this, and probably many people listening know that there is this balance, this dance of masculine and feminine within us. And so as you embrace the part of you that is this, I like to call it again yin. So getting away a bit from the gendered kind of idea of
Yeah.
masculine and feminine, because it really is playing with energy
Yeah.
and playing with the different forms that energy takes. So you just described really well the masculine, and so the feminine, which is receptive, also has great power in that she decides what comes in and what stays out, and that's huge power.
Mm,
That's just a queen. That is someone in
yeah.
her absolute power. What comes in will nourish. She'll nourish and grow, and it will expand. What gets left out is stuff that she doesn't want to have become part of her and to nourish and grow. So even just that simple choice, that's one
Yeah.
aspect of the feminine, right? This receptive, this receiving. It doesn't mean we have no boundaries and we open to the world and we get steamrolled and everyone plows over us.
Yeah.
Absolutely the opposite. She's in command of what comes forward. Not necessarily in command of what comes forward. She's in command of the selection process that happens when she says, okay, I'm opening to this. I'm actually not opening to that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so there are clear
Mm,
boundaries there. So when you decide to receive, what you decide to receive and how you receive it is where that power lies so beautifully. And yeah, it's taken me a very long time to be able to articulate it in this way, and
yeah.
also to be able to embody it. It's work in progress. I'm not going to say I'm perfect at
Yeah.
work in progress, but when you are able to allow and to flow and to receive. Flow is another aspect of yin, of the feminine, where
Mm,
if you have the direction, and again it's within yourself, this balance of direction, and then okay, I'm going to go with the flow. Okay, I'm going to be in creative, blue sky thinking space right now. I'm not going to have a goal in mind. We're just going to explore. These are different aspects of being more in, let's say, the yin, the
yeah.
flow state, aka the feminine. And
Yeah.
then when you're with someone, how does that work? How does that play? Because it's also wonderful when you do meet a man who's fully in his power and can also receive. So I'll be like, take me. And sometimes that's wonderful because you're like, I'm gonna ravage you now, right? And so it's also can be really, it's a fun thing to play with also within that dynamic of relationship, and we don't always think about it that way, or understand that we have a choice and that we can choose to be in an energetic space of one feeling way or another. And that's something that can be played with in relationship when you're both conscious and aware of it. Where it goes flat is where you're both trying to lead, you're both trying, you're
Yeah.
both leading at the same time, or you're both kind of receiving at the same time. It falls flat, or there's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting. I definitely used to bring pretty much my masculine, my Athena, like so much Athena goddess in me, like which I'm trying to kind of get rid of that and bring some more Aphrodite in or something. But yes, I very much brought my masculine. I had no concept of receiving. And even now, just listening to what you were saying, I'm like, yeah, I can see how I'm trying to lead. I'm very much in the masculine. I must be structured and know exactly what's happening and why. I'm asking myself that question all the time, why? And it's a habit, and it's a bit of a safety mechanism, I suppose. It's that protection that if I'm in control, if I have all of these things, then I'm going to be safe. And it is, I think, with being able to receive, you kind of got to be able to trust and feel safe that in receiving. And I think you described beautifully how you can go about that as you choose, this is what I'm available to receive, this is what I'm not available to receive. Like, I think sometimes for me at least, and perhaps other people can relate, when you've not been in relationship that much, it can almost feel like I just need to receive and accept anything because otherwise I'm going to have nothing, which isn't true.
And often backfires, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Such a
yeah,
backfire. I've done that one so many times.
yeah. It's like it's the people pleasing side of things. If I be everything that they want me to be, and actually they probably would quite like some. They might respond better if you have boundaries and yeah.
Yeah. And also, there's also the other part of it, which was, at least for me, and I think what you started to describe, which was, I'll just take whatever comes. And because, you know, whatever, or maybe I'm being too picky,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it's that. You're either too much or too little, right? It's like the double
Yeah,
bind.
yeah,
Good old double bind. And so you then open yourself up, and you'll, at least for me, the experience was going on some really awful dates and being like, okay, fine, I'm just shutting this whole entire store down completely.
yeah,
And then it just kind of didn't work. So, well, it definitely didn't work. Yeah.
yeah.
So, what did work? What did work is the question for me, for you. What has worked? What's felt good?
From my perspective, um, I'm still very much a work in progress with the guy that I'm with at the moment, and questioning, like, I'm not sure if I am willing to receive this kind of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But what worked for me was taking the time prior to, and I didn't choose to date. This was a happenstance meeting. I got very clear on what was okay for me and what wasn't. Um, and I also started doing some kind of deliberate meditations. So I was doing some Joe Dispenza work on my energy, and really getting into the energy of what I wanted to feel like when I was with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of focusing on okay, here's my list. He must be this tall, and he must, look like this, and he must, I was like, it's kind of nonsense, actually. It's about, how do I want to feel? And so, yeah, I literally did a meditation, got into that energy of how I wanted to feel, went out for a walk, and he was there in the car park, like just literally like happened that that quickly, so that I was like, okay, this is not coincidence. Yeah. And then but I still, I'm navigating all the time, and refining and being like, okay, do I want it? Is that okay for me? Is it not okay for me? And then one of the big differences for me this time around is being able to articulate, like, that's not okay for me. Yeah, I'm not saying you need to change, but what I'm saying is my preference is that I would not be with a person who behaves in that way. So then we have a choice. You have a choice, I have a choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So work in progress for sure. And I think, I need to go and look up Neo Tantra, because I know you trained with Layla Martin, and I've also been working with her since 2014 on and off, in her kind of sexuality courses, and getting in touch with my sexuality. And it's something that you're inspiring me to kind of to get back on that wagon, and explore that a little bit more. But I know I went to an introduction to Tantra class at one of these kind of well-being events.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a horrific experience for an introvert. Like, we were having to crawl around on the floor, and like one person was the prey and one person was the predator, and there was like all these strangers who I never met before. And I was like, I remember at one point like crawling around and crawling past like the exit and thinking like, could I just crawl out and
Yes,
nobody would notice?
yes.
So I'm really, I think I'm going to go and explore the neo tantra, because that sounds like it might be a little bit.
Well, that's probably sounds like neo tantra. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the community of and the schools and the what's available is tough to kind of select and be. It's hard
Mm,
sometimes to know until you're in it, and then you probably. And so, in a lot of those spaces, you do want to go in knowing your boundaries, being
yeah.
able to say yes or no, because they're not generally great at. This is a gross general, and they've gotten better because they've had to. Um, but boundaries aren't necessarily the strong suit
Hmm.
because they're really usually geared towards open
Yeah.
more, and it's kind of which yeah we do need to also open more, but we also need to feel safe in opening more,
Yeah.
and you want to always do do that in a space that feels doable. It feels doable, and that you're meeting your edge. You're not blasting past it because you'll likely traumatize yourself or
Yeah.
experience trauma that you've had in the past come back.
Mm,
So yeah, especially when you're working with sex and sexuality, it's such it can be very very tender. It can be very um, it's just a soft space for many of us, and so you want to also do that in a way that feels responsible and where you're held and it's contained, and you can explore your edge, like you can meet your edge, you can lean into it, and it can also feel safe and doable, so that you don't do more damage than
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, so I go in or I always recommend really, really checking out teachers, really
Yeah.
checking out the space, if you can, speaking to other students, and also knowing your, boundaries are so, so important, and that it's okay to say, it's okay to crawl out the exit. It's okay. I'm going to be a tigress and I'm crawling out. Like that's power. That's your power. That's
Yeah.
your choice. So
Yeah. I did, by the end of the workshop, I did get to the place of, actually, my choice is not to join in with this, and that is okay. Like,
yeah.
that's as valid as everybody else who is joining in, because they might also not be comfortable doing it. They may well just be doing it because everybody else is doing it. So yeah.
Yeah. So finding a
It was a good few years ago though, so it was maybe something I'll explore
there's
again.
there's so much richness and so much beauty in the tantric tradition, and even in the ways that we've interpreted it and have brought it back, brought it to us. That we've transformed. There's great power in it, and there can be beautiful, beautiful experiences to be had from
Yeah.
it. And just understanding that it's an ancient tradition, so there are parts of it that have those aspects of it that are powerful, that stay, and then a lot of it has been reinterpreted and kind of shifted and changed. Tantra itself is like sexuality is one tiny, tiny, tiny
Hmm.
fraction of a
Yeah.
very vast tradition and philosophy
Yeah.
and way
Yeah.
of being, even from a long time ago. So yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I would always say someone like Layla was fantastic because she has studied classical tantra. She also is very much, and she knows about the neo-tantric kind of space and spirituality and all the things. So, um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's good. Good
Yeah.
things to explore, and then also just being aware that what feels right is what's right for you, and what feels
Hmm.
wrong is wrong for
Yeah.
you. And
Yeah.
yeah, and just trust.
Yeah. Simple as that. And that again, it does, really does tie in with being able to have healthy relationships, is really knowing what feels right for me, what feels wrong for me, and being able to articulate that, and also honor that, instead of, like you were saying, maybe I'm just being too picky, maybe I just need to accept this because everybody else seems fine with it, but no, like if it feels wrong for you, then it's wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot. And it's you can explore, okay, why is it that it feels wrong? Why does it feel so off?
Hmm.
What
Yeah.
what wants exploring here, and what's the right space for that? So is the container that you're in, um, at a well-being event where you're crawling around like a
Yeah.
tiger, the right container and time for that exploration, or does it want a different kind of space to be
Yeah.
kind of explored in? So
Yeah, I think the answer was no. That was not the right space for somebody like me to have my first introduction to tantra. No,
yeah,
um,
and I've
but
had similar experiences, so you're not alone.
yeah,
There's no, the
yeah.
rest of us have, yeah, fallen into the tantra trap. I'm like, oh, this feels so wrong. Oh, but it's gonna help me.
Exactly. Yeah, there was that kind of because I am generally on the introvert side of things as well, and it was just like, yeah, no, no,
Yeah.
no. I don't even play charades in front of my family. Like this is like this is way past my edge.
Way past doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, um, I think there's a couple of the other things that um, one of the other things I wanted to talk about was about the idea of smoothing things out before you start getting into a relationship, or into dating. Like if you have been single for quite a long time and you've got some limiting beliefs or some bad experiences or whatever it might be. I wonder if you could kind of talk a little bit about what that means to kind of smooth things out and why it's important before you dive back into the dating pool.
Yeah. So, if you want different results, then something does need to shift. So it's not necessarily who you are that needs to shift or change. It's how you are with who you
Mm,
are often, and how you are with who you are with other people. And so, if you just take a break from dating for some time, if you do a lot of like the work that you did, the work that I did of introspection, a lot of looking at things, looking at your relationship to yourself, to your sexuality, to the way that you think about and relate to intimate partners, then you begin to see patterns and understand. Okay, this may have been. Why am I always with the same people? Why do I always have the same crappy
hmm.
experiences? The patterning can help you really start to see. So with people who come to me and that I work with, we spend usually a good month and a half of this kind of work before. And everyone's different, of course. So some people are already dating when they come to me, but oftentimes, even those people, we want to just do a bit of smoothing. I call it smoothing out. So looking at, okay, what would you really, where are you really trying to go to? Where would you really like to be? Not trying because you're doing it. So where are you, what are you wanting? What looks like healthy for you? What have you experienced in the past? So it's, is there some cleaning and clearing that wants to happen? Is there some space that wants to be created? Is there some letting go of, yeah, usually if you've been single for a long time, yes, like 100,000 bad dates. Can I just get rid of app frustration and like so many awkward moments and just so many disappointments? Like a lot of cleaning and clearing wants to happen, and
Mm,
some restoration of your whole self. So parts of you that maybe got stuck in those situations in the past, just bringing those back to the present time, to bring you back to a sense of wholeness and feeling healthy and complete and happy and high vibe and golden. It's kind of like just working through some stuff in that process. Also, what often comes through is doubts around worthiness or deservingness or feeling like you're enough or that you're not too much. So we spoke about it a little bit already. And so that can also be worked on before you're even dating, so that when you do step into the space of dating and putting yourself out there, you're coming from a more solid base, a stronger base,
yeah.
and you're able to show up as the version of you that you know was sparkly at one point, likely,
Yeah.
and that really can show up and be there. So a lot of this work, the clarity, the cleaning and clearing, the stepping into a higher higher vibe or a more healthy and whole way of being. A lot of that can happen before you're even in front of someone, so that when you're, and like you were saying, the work that you did to feel into what's it going to feel like when I have this person, what's it going to feel like when I'm in this relationship, how is it going to feel differently in my body than stuff that's felt like in a
Mm-hmm.
certain way in the past. What's that imprint, and what wants to be left behind from that, those imprints? What's your blueprint for health? So what's actually healthy for you? What we're gonna, like, just smooth it out, lay the ground, so that you can step in when that person is in front of you. When they are there, you recognize them. Your nervous system can attune to theirs. It's also happening
Mm-hmm.
on like a nervous system body level.
Yeah.
You recognize each other in that deeper way. So sometimes it seems like I know them when it's like they feel right. Well, it's your nervous systems attuning to one another. There's an energetic kind of match, and you're ready to dance in that space. So that's
Yeah.
a little bit of the prep work. Some of it probably might feel a little bit strange for people. So if anyone has any questions and they want to ask them after, then I'm happy to
Mm.
more of some of the more energy. Maybe people listening are more in tune with energy and how it works. But it really is a full body feeling of yes, and then you also will likely have some parts of you that feel like, but I'm not sure, and they're constricted. There might be some fear in there still, likely, because some things only can be looked at when you are relating to another in an
Yeah.
intimate way, and those things will surface after you've met the person. Generally, there's a lot of work to do, a lot of kind of just that smoothing out that can happen
Yeah.
before, so that you get better results when you're out there. Basically, you get different results. You get the results
Yeah.
that you'd like. Yeah,
Yeah. For
actually.
sure.
Yeah, does that
Yeah.
make sense?
It makes complete sense. Again, one of the things that I had to look at was, I have the pattern of the unavailable man, and I'm like, why does it always happen to me? Why are they always attached to something that, like, it was bad luck or something? And then one day I had to be like, that's happening a little bit too regularly for this to be bad luck.
Mhm.
It's not just your poor chance. There's something going on there that means that I am, where am I unavailable? And,
Mhm.
like, ultimately, if I'm continually attracted to and attracting the unavailable man, and it was, it's a protection mechanism from previous relationship, but I mean, with a man who was unavailable ultimately. So it just yeah, and maybe there's an element of trying to prove, trying to win over the unavailable, but that the patterns piece, I really did have to have a look at that, and also the nervous system piece. I started dating last summer, went on a few dates, and just recognized that my nervous system response to that early stage of dating was way more. It was way bigger, exaggerated. It was really exaggerated compared to the fact that, okay, you've been on a couple of dates. Like, this is not a long-term relationship that is not working.
Mhm.
So that's when I did actively sought out to work with somebody on nervous system regulation and on my heart coherence, and really, I just really recognized, like, that's a disproportionate response. There's something going on in my body, that there's a response, some kind of trauma from the past or something that needs to be looked at.
Mhm.
So that definitely helped. And it's an ongoing piece of work, right? It's not one and done at all. I catch myself all the time, but that's, the awareness that you get from that smoothing out process. I then think you take it in to the relationship, and it certainly for me, again, like you say, there's some things only come up when you're in it, and I'm like, oh God, like, how true is this story I'm inventing based on this tiny weeny piece of information that I've got? And really, like, having to challenge and challenge and challenge myself, and not allow that crazy narrative to take it into the actual relationship itself, and to be able to just sit with myself, challenge myself, and really start to gather evidence to contradict the stories that really is just my ego, whatever it is, trying to keep me safe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, such good work. Yeah,
Yeah.
nervous
So,
system in the body has so much information, doesn't it?
oh yeah,
And,
Yeah, for sure. And I think you come back to the high performing entrepreneurial woman, and certainly I think one of the other things was about we were going to talk about was about how being in a relationship can actually enhance your career. And you know, if anybody out there is listening is like me, I can be very much in my head. So the work for me that has had the biggest impact over the past few years has not been mindset work. It has been getting in the body and listening to my body. And now I know, like, if I'm not in a great place, if I'm struggling mentally, then what I need to do is get in my body, whether it's dancing or whatever. But I think it's interesting as well. I certainly held this belief that if I meet a man, he's just going to drag me down and get in the way of my career. But actually, that's not true. And you wrote a post about that quite recently.
yeah. So, a couple of super interesting things. So, similarly, the work that I do is body based,
Hmm.
and what that actually means is working. I don't even know if body based is necessarily accurate. It's a bit of a misnomer. So, working with the body as well as the energy, so emotions and things,
Yeah.
and also with mindset and sync. Like it's a system.
Hmm.
And I also, and I still do, lean towards my mind because it's works pretty well. It's had lots of exercise for
Yeah.
many years, and has rewarded me in so many ways. And then where this significant change came was through the body, through working with my body and being in my body and trusting it. And it continues to be the work, because it's connected. It is connected to the mind, so you can reach the deepest recesses of your mind through the body, actually. And the body has its own wisdom. So the body also has its own um, capacity and power. And Heart Math Institute, I think, is proving
Yeah.
the heart is actually
Yeah.
more intelligent, not intelligent, but more powerful from a.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's who I have a little contraption that I attach to my ear that measures my heart coherence, and it's through the Heart Math Institute. Yeah.
Yeah. So the body stuff is key, and that takes a bit of learning and a bit of letting go.
Yeah, it's unlearning, isn't it? What we've been conditioned to in society, especially like if you are a high achiever, it's
Yeah.
very much about the mind. Like high achievement is associated with the mind rather than with the body. Well, unless you're an Olympic athlete, but you know,
And concepts are fun. So concepts can be kind of fun. It's a beautiful thing for the monkey to do in the mind. To go play with a concept and twist it around and
yeah,
in all different ways. And then where you're felt most, or where people feel you most, is through your nervous system, through your body. So,
hmm,
um, so there's also, and where you feel the most, when you allow yourself to feel, because it can also be another way to avoid feelings, staying in the mind, is,
yeah,
is through the body. So, oh, the body. It's beautiful to work with because you can get to the actual crux of things. So you were speaking about patterns and understanding where's this coming from?
hmm,
Something from the past, something from childhood. And that the fastest way to that I've found in my experience and through the work that I do is through the body. So the body keeps the score, as Bessel van der Kolk
yeah,
well. And it really is the most direct route to what the root cause of the actual patterning and blocks are. So learning to get into the body and work with it and in a new way is um, the fastest, in my experience, the fastest way through to the other side. So yeah, as a coach, I'm interested in getting to the other side and kind of
yeah,
moving forward as much as I am and being interested in the exploration. So yeah, and then so that does relate a bit to how it is that in relationship, when you're in a secure relationship. So when you're in a relationship that's secure, um, so what do we mean by healthy, secure relationship? So, and some people don't even use healthy because what healthy for one person, healthy for another person. So we'll
yeah,
say the secure relationship, which is a beautiful space to be in, is one where you feel safe enough in it to be able to take extra risks outside of it. So this is where it can feed into career, um, really, really, and support a career really well, especially for an entrepreneur where you're risking all the time. So
Mm,
some depends because some people really their nervous systems are love risk, and then other people struggle with risk. And so as you grow a business, as you step into this space of creation and decision making all the time and risks in and at every turn it can feel, then having that safe base, someone there who's encouraging and says you're going to be all right, like you got this, I know you got this, gives you, again, your nervous system a minute, the anxiety to kind of come down. If you
mm,
have anxiety or nervousness or unsure, you're feeling unsure, that can settle so you can go out there and take more risks and feel safer in doing so. So you have more energy as well. The energy is less spent on the
yeah,
nervousness, so you're saving on energy and you're also feeling safer to expand and take a risk. Um, and yeah, so that definitely takes a bit of lots of communication and relationship and learning how to communicate your needs and in a way where you're taking ownership of what's happening for you and giving space to the other person, as you so beautifully articulated actually earlier, and how you're doing that now, is key so that you
yeah,
find a way to move forward together. Yeah.
yeah. No, I really like that explanation actually of, when you're in that secure place, you can go out into the world. It's like you've got that to always come back to, like that kind of soft place to land, instead of like it's going to be quite tough if you're in a relationship where like your nervous system is constantly on edge because you don't feel safe. Then it's just going to make, yeah, it will make going out there and taking risks in other areas of life much more difficult. You're just going to be a bit of a wreck, basically.
Yeah. And so many people will come and, the relationship will be detrimental to their career
Yeah,
growth because it isn't. And there are rough patches even for people in secure relationships. And the way that those patches are moved through is significantly different for couples that can communicate well and meet each other, than it is for people who struggle with that, haven't quite learned how to do that,
mm,
um, how to navigate things within themselves and then also in relation to another.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's not to say okay, having a relationship is going to make your career. It's like no caveat. Having a
yeah, yeah,
secure relationship will do that for you. Provide
yeah,
a little bit of rocket fuel for you.
yeah. And I think you just touched there on something else that we were going to cover, which is about um, like being in a relationship, and how do you distinguish between, okay, what's my shit, what's the other person's shit, how do I communicate about this, how do I navigate around this? So yeah, I don't know if you have any wisdom to impart about, yeah, where do you even start with, because I guess I can speak from my own recent experience. There's been a lot of, he's doing this, and and then I just have to go, no, no, that he's not doing anything. Like, that's my shit.
We have a specific example.
um it will be just, like the stories that I make up about, say how long he takes to reply to a text, or if he forgets something, I'll make up the story about what that means for him, but actually it's only what that means for me, and he
Mhm.
could have an entirely different reason, like maybe he's just being an idiot, like, and that it's as complicated as that for him. It's not anything to do with how he feels about me or how interested he is at all.
Yeah.
um so it's, for me, it's that finding, being able to challenge those things and being like, okay, it might not be okay for me that he did that, but the meaning that I'm attaching to it is actually causing me more suffering than than the event itself.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So that's an incredible amount of work that you've done. Well done. Yeah, recognizing what's going on, investigating, yeah, allowing
Yeah,
yourself to feel the things, and then it sounds like you're also doing a bit of self care, taking care of yourself, and then coming to him and saying, hey, this feels this way. So yeah, so that's, I can speak to that a little bit more.
Hmm.
So when that a similar kind of thing happened with me when I first started dating um, my partner, and it was um, he should be calling me every day. Like, why
Yeah.
isn't he calling? It's been 3 days and he hasn't even texted. And then it was like, okay, what's going on here? I'm feeling left. I'm feeling lost. I'm feeling abandoned. I'm feeling like he doesn't care. I'm feeling detached. I don't feel connection.
Hmm.
Um, I'm afraid he might be dating someone else or is going to leave me for someone else. That's all mine.
Yeah.
That's all mine to own. And it's having to do with a lot of the stories that I was told throughout my life and seeing things around me about men and not being able to trust them. And they're always
Yeah.
wanting to be independent. They're never going to they don't really want to be attached to anyone. Certainly don't want commitment. It's not a good thing. And if you ask them for it, then you're clingy and you're this and you're that. So many stories, right? So I'm like, hey, right, this is what's happening. And I have a need. I need to feel connected. I need to know that that person's there. What I want and desire in a relationship is a daily check-in, is someone to be there for me. Um, and as a strong, independent woman, a lot of that wasn't really that okay for me to own.
Hmm.
And it certainly was extremely challenging to articulate to someone that I had
Yeah.
understood was attracted to me and interested in me because I am an independent woman, because I'm not needy. I don't have to be clingy. I'm not.
Hmm.
Whew, so that was a very
Yeah.
scary, scary moment because you have a choice. You don't have to be vulnerable. But if you are, the reward's immense. So having the conversation and saying, okay, this is what my experience is. When we don't speak every day, it makes me feel like blah 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 blah. It's likely something to do with my childhood. I have a fear of abandonment and the things that I learned throughout my life. So it would help me if and what would feel really good to me is if we can check in every day, even if it's just a short text exchange. How does that sound to you? Oh, I had no idea. Of course, yeah, no problem. Done in like 2 minutes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. After like a really long period of suffering,
3 days of like, oh, he's not calling. What's going on? What? Ah,
Yeah.
oh, okay, all right, great, yeah. So, so that's a bit of an illustration, I think.
Yeah.
That is what is mine, and then what is his or what would be the other person's is my partner needs space. Like he has had his own share of stuff that he's lived through in his life, and he needs space. And so understanding this is what he's been through, this is his life experience.
Yeah.
He needs space for himself. In a certain way, and am I able to give that to him? Am I able to be with myself and hold myself if it feels tough sometimes, and then know that that's his, that he does care and that he loves me and that he's here, and that the way that he can do that right now looks like this. Is that enough? Is that enough for me? Am I okay with that? And if the answer is yes, okay, well then let's move forward. Let's keep
Yeah.
going. Yeah. If it feels like your needs aren't getting met to the degree that you need them to be met, and that you're unable to give to the other person or be there for the other person in a way that is enough for them. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to feel good for both people. Then that's healthy. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's never felt like compromise in I think we're about on 4 years. It's never felt like compromise, and there are things that I still desire that we're working towards.
Hmm.
So if that's imperfect, or if that's, I know we're working towards certain things. There's still things that want smoothing out. Sometimes it takes years because of
Yeah.
what people carry. And I know that it's going in that direction, and I have a commitment as much as the person is able to commit right now. And have I verbalized that I want more? Yeah. and that I need more? Yeah. And do I see us moving towards that? Yes. In the time that it takes in order for us to get there. My timeline might look different from my partner's. And now, as I'm moving through it, I'm seeing, okay, the timing is actually perfect. I don't like to admit it because like, it happened a year ago, but it's actually perfect timing because what
Yeah.
needed the time and space to be understood and to be worked through and to come to the surface needed the time and space that it's had now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
about as good as we can get.
Yeah.
I think it's exceptional. To me, it feels like
Mm,
a beautiful journey, and
yeah.
that's why I do the work that I do because I feel like it's available, it's possible, you can have it. Um, it takes some deep work.
Yeah.
It takes some time. Everyone's timeline's totally different, so there's no saying
Yeah.
a month, 3 months, a year, 3 years. We don't know, um, but you get there.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. And I think it's the idea, that piece about the timeline as well is interesting. And obviously I'm 40 now, and I've never really wanted to have kids, so I don't have the biological ticking clock or anything that people have. But even in myself, I've noticed, like, trying to get to that place of certainty, which is a complete illusion in any relationship anyway. Like, nothing is ever certain. And almost like trying to force an outcome, whatever that outcome is, just so that I have an outcome. Like, either I'm almost sabotaging to the sometimes, I can catch myself of like, why do you need to know this right now? Like,
Mhm.
2.5 months in, you don't. What is the rush? This can take as long as it takes. It's like, um just like allowing that is, and I guess again maybe it comes from that drive as well, that wanting to have like ducks in a row, and it doesn't work when you've got somebody else in the equation, because they have their own stuff as well, like you say. And I'm also, it's fascinating that and I'm sure there are many women who can relate, that you are, if you are driven and you're purposeful and ambitious, to actually admit, I actually have a need. Like, I have a desire to be, to enjoy the being with somebody. And one of my friends was just saying to me last night, like, there's nothing wrong with you, because, and you're not needy because you want that closeness that you haven't had, especially when you've had a long period of not being in a relationship. So yeah, it's just it's a
Mhm.
minefield to navigate.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting one. And I
Yeah.
kind of feel like um, the challenge is no longer can I do it on my own? The
Mm,
challenge becomes can I do this with someone else?
yeah.
That becomes the new kind of, if
Yeah.
that's your desire, if that's what you want. So, and how can I do that? And it's likely that the ways towards that feel very different from the ways towards getting what you want in your career.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it is the relaxing back. It is being open and receiving. It is shifting into more being and less doing. All of it
Mm,
can be so hard because we're so geared towards a different reality, and that's shifting also in the entrepreneurial space as well.
yeah. Yeah, I
Shifting.
was going to say, there's a lot more people out there talking about how important it is to do your energy, and having that balance of feminine and masculine in even in your career as well, not constantly striving and pushing.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's changing, I think, as well.
Yeah. It's
So
kind of, it all is kind of like converging with, the feminine becoming, kind of rising. Yeah, sounds a bit cliche, but it's the people recognizing, actually this toxic masculinity hasn't really worked very well.
right.
um yeah, so we
Yeah.
need to embrace something else.
Yeah. So we're shifting
Mm,
for sure.
yeah.
Good and uncomfortable even for me. It's uncomfortable for me too. To in in the entrepreneurial space, I want to just do and do more, and it's not working. Okay, I'll do something else. Okay, I'll try. And it's you burn out. It's exhausting. And
Yeah.
okay, how can I be? If I just be, is that thing gonna land? Well, I don't really believe it because it's just not your reality. It's not
Yeah.
something that you're used to. or that you've experienced or that you've been taught. It's kind of, well,
Yeah.
work harder, work harder, work harder, work harder, work harder, and you'll get it.
Yeah.
Just be, and it feels really floaty and like weird, and yet when you do push to a degree where you just burn, we all know what that looks like, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Most of the people on this listening to this probably know what that feels.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's finding that space where you can get the thrill because there'll be a part of you that loves that doing and that the concepts and the intellectual side of things, and it's fun, and then relaxing back into just being and allowing. And again,
Mm.
I feel like the um, the teacher rather than the sage because I haven't quite
Yeah.
gotten there myself.
Yeah. I'm always like, I'm teaching what I need to learn, people.
Yeah, so
Yeah. I think that's one of the other things, probably the last thing that we were going to cover is actually how, like the journey in relationship, we can start to see, oh, hang on a minute, I have the same patterns in other areas of life. And just, while you were talking, that really occurred to me that in both instances, the important piece is the energy that you're coming from. So whether you're, working hard on something in your business, if you're coming from an energy of fear and scarcity and worry and I'm not sure if this is going to work, then your results that you're going to get, well, first of all, the experience you're going to have is not going to be a nice one. And the results you're going to get probably aren't going to be what you would like either. And the same applies in a relationship. If you're going into that relationship and interacting with your partner from a place of fear, anxiety, like scarcity, like this has to work kind of thing, really attaching to it, then I mean that person is going to feel that energy for a start. And
I was in that space with dating forever.
mm,
That was really, and the worse, it would just get worse and worse the harder I tried.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
so yeah, I'm totally feeling it as far as if you're single for a long time. It's like, well, what do I do? I've tried to do, and I did. I also tried to do nothing.
yeah,
Try to do nothing. Okay, we'll just wait for the person to like land. That didn't seem to work. All right, I'll start dating again. Okay, and it really did for me. It did take the deeper work because I had to do something, and the doing happened to be deeper work.
yeah.
This stuff, and some of the doing was being.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
That's
yeah.
so true. It's a bit like I did nothing. I meditated. I got clear. I had a goal card, and I want to feel ease with this person, and I meditated into how I would feel. I wasn't really attaching to when that was going to happen. There was no kind of desperation behind it. And the same applies in business. Things in building the business, things flow when I'm not attaching to. I can say this is what I want and move in that direction, but I have to be unattached
Mm-hmm.
to whether that outcome actually happens, which is so tricky. It's a
Yeah.
tricky thing to, but then again, we come down to trust, don't we? We come down to having that spiritual connection and knowing that as long as I'm trusting my guidance and following the nudges,
Mm-hmm.
um, then it's going to lead me where I need to be led ultimately. Yeah.
Leaps of faith.
Yeah, for sure. That's been such an amazing conversation. I know that people will have got so much out of that. So if they want to find out more about you and get more of you, where can they go to find you?
So I am we met, I think, in Instagram. And
Yes. Yeah.
yes, I'm in Insta. Feel free to DM me and say hello. It'd be great to hear from anyone. Yeah, I would love to hear what people took away from our conversation, what
Yeah.
felt supportive and good, and if anyone has any questions or wants to know more, would love to hear. And I have a website, so you can read about my work and how I work with people on my site. And join my mailing list, which is always really good. Be part of my tribe. Those are the best ways. I do workshops, so I hold workshops once a month at least on dating, love, and relationships and sex. So those are also good. And yeah, those are the main spaces I'm in right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put all of the details in the show notes anyway, so people can find you. And yeah, we met on Instagram, so yeah, would highly recommend people hop on over there and check out all of your wisdom. So yeah, just thank you so much again for that conversation. It was really powerful. I know I'm taking a lot away from it as well. So yeah, I hope the listeners or viewers, wherever you're watching this or listening to this, enjoyed. And yeah, that's it for today's episode of the Uncaged podcast. Hope you enjoyed and found it valuable. And as Andrea said, do let us know what you're taking away from the conversation. And I just look forward to speaking to you again in the next episode. So bye for now.